Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to talk about the X-Men super event, Dazzler the movie. Super event, stupid shit. Oh, Dazzler. It's just, they had no idea what they were doing with this Dazzler character. The Dazzler the movie is like it's like an annual, I want to say. It's pretty long. Like, I would say it's roughly the equivalent of like 4 just regular floppies. Like, it goes on for a minute, but like nothing really happens. And it's almost like it almost doesn't take place in like the same continuity. Like, it doesn't track some of their stuff that went on necessarily. And then it's not good. It's just not. Like, it doesn't have anything to say. It just kind of like exists and whatnot. But it's there, and I read it, and so we're gonna kind of go through it pretty quick. To be honest, this video will not be longer than 10 minutes, if even that. I got nothing to say about it, to be honest. Okay, so what is Dazzler the movie? Dazzler the movie starts off. There's a lot of fan service in Dazzler the movie, more so than even in like her regular comic, which is excellent. Which is like the one plus side. That being said, I don't really like the art style that the artist is using. It's very like old timey. Like, this comic came out in like the late 70s, early 80s, I want to say, like mid 80s even, and it looks old as shit. Like, it looks like a fucking comic from like the 50s or 40s. So it's kind of like what, man. Anyway. All right, so Dazzler is doing her thing at the YMCA or whatever, the gym that she works at, doing her yoga stuff, and she's getting really into it. And she's noticing that like she's glowing up a little bit when she's doing this stuff, and so she like has to force herself to like rein it in, girl. And then afterwards, this like douchebag is like, "Hey, baby, I want to go take you and fuck you." And she's like, "No, thanks. I'm not allowed to date people who are in my class. That's gym policy or whatever." And so guy's like, "We'll see about that." And so, you know, she's like thinking about stuff, and then some nice young man like comes along and is like, "Oh, gee, Willikers, you're such a sweet babe, girly, and you know, I just thank you so much for this thing, and I just wish, oh golly gee, I wish I could get a girl like you." And then they get interrupted by the guy who comes back with the owner of the gym, and the owner of the gym's like, "All right, this guy owns the gym now. He just bought it for me," because he's some like huge financier in like Los Angeles or wherever. And so he's like, "All right, baby, now we can date." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I already promised this guy I'd go on a date, but you know, hee, call me later or whatever. Don't ever talk to me again, you creep, old man creep." And so she heads out with the guy, and they have like a nice little chit chat, and she thanks him for helping her out, and then she gives him like a little smoochie, yep, smoochopotamus. Jeez Louise. And so then she goes back to her apartment, and she's living in the same place, right? So when I say it's not like canonical, I'll get to that point. Like, most of it is just like, okay, cool, we're picking up from where we left off last time. Not much has changed. And she's just trying to think about how she's going to make it in the movies and do all this other stuff. And then we bounce over to Roman. You remember Roman, right? Roman is like so long ago. It's like when she first moved to Los Angeles, she ran into this guy. And we get like almost like the same scene. Like, and this is where it's like kind of confusing, because it almost seems like Roman has never met Allison Blair before. But like, he mentions that he had, but we haven't seen him in like a year worth of, I don't know if it's a full year, like at least like 6 or 7 issues, maybe even more. I don't mind. It might almost be a year of like Dazzler comics if they came out every month. So it's been a minute. And so we get him like, so there's some like hot babe, and she's like walking out of there being like, "Thanks, Romy. That was delightful. Your sex is the best." And then he like hobbles out of bed with his like fat gut and his like eyes that can't see and his bald head and everything like we got before. And he gets all suited up, and he's like, "I want to make a picture with Allison Blair, and I want to fuck her. So we got to figure that out." And so he goes and like tracks her down, and is like, "Hey, baby, let's make a movie together." And she's like, "Leave me alone, Roman." And he keeps trying to like make moves on her, and she's like, "No, no, 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 no." But eventually he like wins her over with like money and prizes and stuff. And so then they like hang out, and eventually like Dazzler like falls in love, and they want to make a movie. But then like there's the whole side story in this is the anti-mutant sentiments. And before we get to the Roman part, there's even a point where like Aurora calls Dazzler and is like, "Hey, Allison, we just want to make sure you're doing okay because of anti-mutant sentiments that are getting really strong around here, and if you need any help, just let us know, but look out." And then her and Nightcrawler have a talk about like Allison Blair and how she needs to be like more cautious and whatnot, because she's like a young lady and she kind of believes she's invincible or whatever. So going forward again with Roman, so eventually they start just like flying all over the place, and she doesn't want to make a movie because she doesn't want to get him in trouble with like the mutant thing, and he's like, no, baby, this is what I want. And so finally she's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a movie, but I'm going to help make the movie, because at some point they're just like partying. They're like in Monaco and Venice, or I don't know, they're in a whole bunch of places. Vegas at one point, right? There's a couple splash pages of them just like partying up like crazy, and she's like, I'm getting fat. I need to stop living this high life and like start doing something for mutant kind. And so then she convinces Roman to like get a guy to like finance the movie, and the movie's going to be about them, but mostly about Dazzler being like a superhero as like a mutant, and to try to like win people over or whatnot. And so they can't find anyone to finance it because of anti-mutant sentiments. But eventually the guy who like was hitting on her at the very beginning, who has a lot of money, he calls and he's like, I'll finance it, and yada yada, but you got to come under certain deals. And by the time, so Roman brings it up with Dazzler, and she's like, hell no, fuck that guy. And Roman's like, okay, got it, baby. But he makes the deal anyway because he's got a lot of debt, right? That was like the whole thing with him before, is that he's like drowning in debt, and he hasn't had like a break in a long time. This guy essentially agrees to pay him off and, give him a bunch of money if he like fucks around with Allison or whatever. Anyway, so they have like a lot of sex, and they're just like partying, and they start making the movie, and it's like super awesome, and she keeps like, she's super dedicated to it. And at some point they watch like the final movie, and Roman's like, that's like legit a very good movie you made there, sweetheart. And she's like, oh, you're just saying that because we're fucking. And he's like, no, like, I mean, yeah, I would say that if we were fucking, but no, this like legitimately, this is like a really good movie. This is excellent. And then something happens where they keep getting chased by anti-mutant people, and like they get chased out of the theater. And then at some point, like Roman doesn't talk to her for a little bit, like maybe a day. And so she goes to find out what's wrong. And then when she gets to his office, it's the Belial guy or whatever his name is, Bell. And he's like, oh, you see what happened here was that I have a contract signed with Roman. I'd pay off all his debts and give him all this money, and then you would he'd never speak to you ever again. So he was desperate, and and I'm an asshole, and then I have like, we're not going to release the movie either because I don't want to, and it's the last movie there is. But I could be convinced. Originally I just wanted to fuck you, but now I want to make money off of you because you're very talented and popular and whatnot. So you got to swear allegiance to me for like all time and eternity. And if you do this, we'll release this movie, which will definitely help mutant kind be better, and some bullshit like that. And she's like crying, and she's like, okay, give me the forms. And then it says like, go fuck yourself instead of her signature. I think it says go suck an egg, right? Because it's like comics code and stuff. And then she's like, suck a dick. And he's like, no. And then she like fries the contract that Roman had, and fries the contract that he had for her. And she's like, adios, bitches. And like heads outside. And then Roman drives up, and he's like, Allison, I'm so sorry. I made this awful deal. I'm going to go in and like shred the thing right now. And she's like, I already took care of it, baby. And so they go back to, I think, his place to like fuck again. And then she's like, and he's like, all right, let's make a new movie and blah, 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 blah. And we can find financiers and we'll make it work. And she's like, no, baby, I got to make it on my own. I can't be relying on other people, but I always loved you, and I truly love you. And she has like a thing for like, she's almost like Dazzler at this juncture is like, okay, she was dating like older, kind of sketchy looking redheaded guy. She was dating like weird guy. She was dating like this fat old man. And I'm like, man, she's got a thing for like ugly bastards. Like, if you go to like a hentai site and look up ugly bastard, like you'll see what I mean. But like that's like her type, which I guess is like a type in like a certain form of hentai. But I'm like, cool, I guess maybe his dick's huge. I don't know. What the fuck? But yeah, so she goes off to like make it for herself. And that's the end of Dazzler the movie. It was a thing. Anyway, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.